guys, welcome to another episode of Mbali Talks, your platform for all things business, fashion and lifestyle. In today's episode, I want to share with you a 5-point series on how you can actually start your own clothing brand right here in South Africa. Is actually inspired by all the emails that I often get from people, especially after watching that Alibaba video or the video where I share different platforms that you can use to stock your products from, where most of the people that I get the emails from are actually people that want to start a clothing brand. And I thought to myself, instead of waiting to answer one-on-one emails, because sometimes honestly I just don't get the time to answer people promptly because of all the other things that I do, I thought to myself, let me come onto a platform like this and share with you my own trade secrets of how I actually started my brand and how it's been going for the past 5 years, and also just to share with you tips that I wish I had known when I was starting out in order for me to have been able to avoid a lot of the startup mistakes that I made. If you're new to our channel, thank you so much for stopping by. You just landed on one of the best channels on YouTube right now, so please do join our community by hitting that subscribe button below. And if you've been with us since day one, thank you so much for coming back. You guys are the reason this channel stays alive, so thank you so very much for that. So when I started FashionDashCouture 5 years ago, I did reach out to a couple of people who I thought were actually going to be my industry mentors because I had also seen them run their own brands online. However, unfortunately for me, I only ever got a response from one person, and even that person was just like, you know what, I wish you well. Unfortunately, I don't have the time or the liberty to be able to allow you to shadow me, so I wish you all the best with your business. And even though I appreciated the fact that she had gotten back to me, I do wish that she had actually given me, say maybe a 3 to 6 month period of just shadowing her to see where she buys fabric, how she decides which fabric to buy, where she has her clothes made in terms of a CMT, or whether they actually buy online and get them imported into South Africa. All these things are the things that you find yourself confused about, especially at the beginning of your business. And this is why I decided today, let me do this video to share with you guys my own trade secrets. Hopefully you guys are going to take them and be able to start your own clothing brand, whether it's a t-shirt brand, whether it's a tracksuit brand, whether it's a gym wear brand, as some of the emails that I get are mostly about that. It's just pointers that I feel like you are going to need on your way as you start your business, and or things that you need to consider before you take all your investment and plunge into a business like clothing. Another motivating factor for today's video is actually something that I'm going to share towards the end of the video as a feature that I want to introduce to this channel. Because when I started Mbali Talks, my motivation more than anything was to kind of bring awareness to other small businesses, because I feel like that's kind of the reason why maybe it takes a long time for people to feel like the business is working, because nobody knows you. You're a startup and you don't even have the money to market yourself at a high scale level. So stay towards the end of the video. I have some great news that I want to share with you guys, but for now, let's get right into it. So the first thing you're going to want to consider before starting a clothing brand is what kind of clothes do you want to sell? This you can do in 2 ways. You can either decide that you want to be the person that is selling fast fashion, which is basically the fashion that you're going to find at Zara, at Shein, at Pretty Little Things, at Fashion Nova. Those are the types of clothing that you can easily source and stock either locally from China Mall, like some people do, or if you decide to distinguish your business, you can actually go and find your own other sources on platforms like Alibaba or 1868 or even on DHgate. The reason you need to be able to decide which clothing you want to make is that it will determine all your other decisions that you're going to do with regards to the business. Who your target market is, what kind of marketing you want to put, how you're going to structure your logo. These are some of the things that we're going to be talking about in the rest of the video, but you will not be able to make decisions around those things if you have not decided what kind of clothing to sell. The other way that you can decide what you want to sell is to think to yourself, just like I did. I got to a point where I felt like there were some things that I wanted to wear, but I was not finding in the shop. If I was finding them, I'd find them at a place like Mr. Price, and of course the quality was a bit cheap, and that meant I consistently need to go back to the shop to go and buy because I'm trying to replace this thing and that. So if you're like me, you can decide, you know what, I don't want to do fast fashion, or I don't want to do the fashion that comes and goes with every trend. I actually want to do something that is centered around my own style, my own comfort, as well as my own taste. If you're that person, then this is definitely one of the videos that you want to really stick to, because there'll be so many things that I want to share with you, because that's the route that I took. And to be quite honest with you, sometimes I do feel like maybe it would have been easier for me to just be a reseller, where you buy online and sell to other people. However, as mentioned in some of my videos on marketing, the problem with that is it's easy for you to end up looking like everybody who's trying to sell clothing. And therefore that means you need to then put in 10 times more work with your advertising as well as your price point, as well as where you stock your products, for you to be able to really stand out and make people believe that they can give you their money and actually get quality products. The other day I was actually talking to a lady who I used to sell bags to on stock, and she was wanting to start the whole Chinese clothing fashion business. And her problem was that she was complaining that, you know what, people are feeling like maybe the quality is cheap or the fabrics are not good enough. But then I said to her, of course, if you're going to be selling a garment for 250 or for 300 rand or for even maybe 490 or 450 even, and this is actually a price that we use on some of our garments, but also it's a price that we tend to use when we're doing a sale, because there's no way you're going to make clothing from scratch, buy fabric, get into the supplier's place, pay a CMT, and only end up charging it 450, as you guys are going to find out as we continue with the video. But what I was trying to say to her is that she needs to make her customers understand that obviously if a dress is, say for example 250, then the quality is not going to be the best. And that's why you find there's a certain target market for those people, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So if that is your business or that's something that you want to do, buy online, resell, then definitely do that. But if also you're somebody who wants to start your own clothing business and be able to distinguish it from every other brand that is on the market, then my advice for you is to decide on starting your own brand that is circulating around your own style and comfort. The second thing that you're going to want to consider before taking all your money and investing it in starting a clothing brand is who your target market is going to be. This basically leads from point one, where once you have decided what kind of clothes you want to sell, whether you want to be a reseller or you actually want to create clothes that are based on your own style and comfort, you're then going to be able to map out the kind of customer who's more likely to buy from your brand. This is a step that I feel like a lot of small businesses miss out on, because they just feel like, you know what, I'm going to start a business and everyone's going to come to my shop and buy from me because the thing is clothing. But what you miss is there's so many varieties of clothes on the market, and therefore you need to be able to decide who you are trying to attract, who your customer is going to be, how much money do you think your customer makes for them to be able to afford the kind of clothes that you want to sell. All these things are things that you will only be able to know once you have mapped out who your target market is. And by mapping out who your target market is, I'm basically saying at any given point in time in your business, you need to be able to write out a small draft describing exactly who your customer is. Where does your customer normally shop? How much do you think your customer makes? How old do you think your customer is? What are the demographics of your customer? What kind of hobbies does your potential customer have? Once you're able to describe your customer in that manner, you are going to be able to make other decisions around the clothes that you're going to sell, including what price you need to charge, what kind of marketing strategies that you need to use to attract that kind of a customer. And also for people who want to go beyond just online, where you are going to place your business in terms of your shop. You will not be able to answer all these questions if you don't even know who you are selling to. You are going to take a brand that could easily be thriving at a shopping complex and place it at a mall and pay exorbitant amounts of rent, and discover after you've made a couple of losses that actually I should have taken my business and placed it in a shopping complex where the ordinary person goes every day. What I like about also being able to map up your target market is that it just makes you be able to concentrate on only the things that are aligned with the kind of customer that you're trying to attract. You will not find yourself jumping on every little trend, trying to advertise at every spot, trying to create flyers for a business that does not even need flyers. Instead, you're going to find yourself only taking your resources and putting them into the strategies and the methods that are only going to be able to help you based on the target market. So this is a step that I would definitely advise you not to skip if you're someone who wants to start a clothing brand, especially a clothing brand, because like I mentioned, there's so many different styles of clothes on the market. I mean, we have clothes for people that want to go clubbing, we have clothes for weddings, we have clothes for cocktails and baby showers, we have gym wear and active wear, and even in a place like gym wear, there's strictly those things that are known to be tights that you're going to wear at the gym wear, and then there's also active and lounge wear. So you see how diversified that whole thing is. And even though you may find yourself feeling like, you know what, I want to sell gym wear and I want to offer everything, you might find it's not everything that you need to offer up front. But you will also not be able to determine that if you don't know who you're trying to sell to. Maybe for your business to thrive, you need to start out with the tights and the half tops that people use at gyms. But at the same time, maybe if you're a different person, depending on who your client is, maybe your business needs to start out selling tracksuits, loungewear, pajamas for people who want to be in the house. But you're not going to be able to determine those kind of decisions until you are able to draw out who your target market is and know them them at the back of your mind at any given point in time when you need to make a decision about your business. So that's a step that you need to not skip at all. And like I said, I know that it is a difficult step because it just seems like a lot of work when you're trying to rattle your mind to decide who it is that you're trying to sell to. But trust me, once you figure that out, all the other things that we're going to be talking about in the video are going to come easier because you're going to know what's going to work for your target market. The next decision that you want to consider before taking all your money and starting a clothing brand is the name of the brand that you want to start. This again will be determined by point 1 and point 2, where once you've decided what kind of clothes you want to sell and also who your target market is going to be, it'll be easier for you to decide what name you want to give your clothing brand. There's 2 ways of you to be able to do this. First of all, you can decide to pick a name that literally has no meaning, has no story behind it, but just sounds easy to say and really cute. For example, Shein, Pretty Little Things, Fashioneva, Fashion Nova, you know. All these are names that quite honestly don't have a lot of meaning behind them, except that it was just selling clothing, we're just selling fashion, we're just selling fast fashion, you know. And they are easy to remember, and they are short and sweet, and therefore make it easy for anyone who's trying to reference them or who's trying to refer a friend to them to do so. Because again, the name is short and sweet and rolls off the tongue very easily. This works best if you're somebody who wants to be able to just be a reseller of a clothing brand. You don't want to find yourself putting your own name or your own authenticity or your own culture behind a brand that is around fast fashion, because fast fashion comes and goes. There'll be someone today who says they are called Fashion Lovers SA. I mean, there's a page online where I know a lot of these Chinese selling brands actually stock from. Yellow Sub. They didn't even have to think of the name. They just said Yellow Sub. If you go on Instagram, you're going to find them at any point in time and buy your Chinese clothing from them, you know. So if you're someone who's going into the reselling space, unless of course you get to a point where you want to put your own logo or your own label on the clothing and you want to source specifically from certain suppliers, there's no need for you to rattle your mind about what the name of your brand is going to be. Just go into Google, check if that name is available, go onto Instagram, check if that name comes up, see how you can change it so that you're able to make sure that by the time you choose that name, it's easy for people to find specifically your brand. But it has nothing to do with your story, it has nothing to do with who you are, it's just a fast fashion cute name that you can use. The second way to determine a name for your brand is if you decide to go the route of someone who wants to CMT your clothing, which basically means you're making your clothing from scratch, you're aligning it with your brand, you're aligning it with your own taste and preferences, you're going to be the person that goes out to find fabric, take it to the manufacturer, have samples made, etc. Then you need to be able to pick a name that has a story around it. People generally love a story, especially if you're trying to create an exclusivity brand around yourself. An example of this is all the luxury brands that you're going to see today: Louis Vuitton, Versace, Gucci, Chanel, Karl Lagerfeld. We have local ones here: Maxhosa, Tebe Makuku, Richie Mnisi. All these are brands that are aligned to the specific people that actually founded the clothing brand. And what's nice about something like that is that if you're someone who's creating your clothes from scratch, it then makes it easier for you to determine the higher price point for your product, because you know there's so much work that has gone into it other than just buying online and then reselling it. Also, a lot of people like a relatable story. Sometimes people are inspired to support you because of the story that is behind your brand. Maybe even the brand name that you decide to choose has to do with your ethnicity or your cultural grouping or your ethnic grouping, and people feel like, okay, I'm Swati, so I can relate to something like that, or I'm Xhosa, I can relate to something like that, and then they come and support you because they feel like you're not just representing yourself as a brand, but you're also representing them and their culture, hence they find it easier to support you. And again, like I said, you will not be able to make this kind of decisions easy for you if you're not even sure what kind of clothing you want to sell, and or you're not even sure who your target market is. Because like I mentioned to you, being able to determine these decisions at the beginning before you even invest your money into creating a clothing brand means that all the other decisions that will come with the business, the pricing of the product, the marketing, where you're going to place your business, are only going to be able to be determined by all the other decisions that you do thoroughly at the beginning, including the name of your brand. Please do not sit on that. And even though sometimes I know you can start something and stop it and start again or change it up, that's all well and good, but it only works for you if you have the time and the money to keep changing the logo, to keep changing your business cards if you're still into business cards, to keep changing your website name. If you're a person who decides, you know what, I want to do this thoroughly and I want to do it once, then take your time to determine the name for your brand, which is aligned with the kind of clothing brand that you're trying to sell, and also which will be aligned to your target market. Once you've determined that the name that you want to give your clothing brand is actually available on sites like GoDaddy or Instagram and even Google, showing you that there's no other person who has that name under business, it's time for you to then legalize that name by registering your business. In South Africa, many people use CIPC for them to be able to register their businesses. All you need is to create an account on the platform where they then give you a client number, which you then use as your identifier, with also in combination with your email. What you do is go onto the website once you've created the account, and then you reserve your name. I know that name reservations range between 50 and 100 Rand, and it's actually a process that can take anything from 3, 5 days or even 10 days for the platform to get back to you, but it's a very easy process. Another option is for you to use a small accounting firm which will promise you that they're going to help you register your business, they're going to get your tax number, and they're going to have those memorandum of incorporation documents for you. However, given this day and time, I just don't see the need for me to go and pay someone 1,500 Rand for them to go on a platform like CIPC the same way that I can for them to register a name for me. Not only that, I just feel like if you create the account for yourself under your own capacity, it'll be easy for you to benefit from all the other services that CIPC has to offer your company. And also, it just means you cut out the middleman so that you don't need to contact someone every time you want something or a document or director's change on your company for you to be able to process that. So my advice for you would be to register your company yourself on CIPC using the name reservation process. Once your business name has been reserved, you are now then able to decide for yourself what kind of business you want to set up. Do you want to be a sole proprietor, or do you want to be a PTY limited type of company? There's pros and cons to using either setup to set up your company. However, it's usually determined by how big you want your business to be and or what kind of liability that you want to have. We all know that a sole proprietor, the advantage of it is that you become the sole controller of the company. The disadvantage is that if you get yourself into a bad business deal using that company, it means your creditors can actually come for your own personal things instead of just for the business, for them to be able to repay the debt. Yet when it comes to a PTY limited type of company, the shareholders or the directors have limited liability with regards to the company when it comes to their own personal belongings. So again, this is something that you need to consider when you're registering your business and or setting it up on CIPC for you to decide how you want the structure of your business to be. This will also determine how your business gets taxed, the kind of tax advantages that you can have, etc. So this is something that I would really research for yourself if you want to find out more about it. There's actually a link that I've put in the description box that you guys can follow to be able to see the different types of businesses that are out there so that you can determine how you want to set up your clothing business before anything else happens. The last thing that you want to do in today's part series, because like I said to you guys at the beginning of the video, this is something that I'm going to do in a 2-part series because there's just so much information that I want to share with you, especially as someone who wants to start a clothing brand, and also especially as someone who has been running a clothing brand of their own. And in one video, guys, we would be here the whole day. So I decided, you know what, let me just cut it up in half so that it's understandable and it's easy to follow and you guys stay interested. The last thing that you need to consider before you decide where you're going to buy your clothing, if you're going to buy clothing or if you're going to create your own brand, is the kind of brand logo and colors that you want to align to your brand. This is something that is so underrated, yet studies show that colors speak to different people in different ways. For example, and this is so controversial, guys, I love the color purple, but a lot of people will tell you that the color purple stands for sexual starvation, which is crazy for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's such a beautiful color. My next favorite color is red, and red says fire and aggression and confidence, and it's a good color if you're somebody who has a character like that. But I know there are people who like more quiet colors, more pastel colors, more creams and beige, and you find people like that create companies and or clothing brands that are more on the lounge style, relaxed mode, or something that is for like a safari or like a light dress, you know. If you don't determine the kind of colors and the type of logo that is going to go well with your business, you're going to find yourself missing certain psychological tricks that you can play on your customers, because again, people are more likely to be drawn to a color that resonates with their own character. If you're still trying to decide on the personal style that you want to portray in your clothing brand, you could also visit a site called collectivegen.com, where they basically help you to create a wardrobe based on your own style and preferences. They ask you a couple of questions, and therefore once you've answered, they are able to create for you a certain color palette for the kind of clothes or the kind of style that emulates your character. This again relates to someone who feels like they want to start their own clothing brand under their own authenticity, under their own name, and also with their own character. It just helps you to be able to determine that, again, who are you trying to target as your target market for your business? All those things, the colors, the logos, again, they seem like small decisions that you need to make, or decisions that you can actually ignore. Yet, as earlier mentioned, there are things that can play a big role in the kind of marketing that you go into, the kind of flyers that you use on your Instagram, the kinds of reels that you make for your marketing content. All those things will be determined by the kind of colors and or logos that you decide to choose for your clothing brand. Once you've nailed down the colors that you want to have for the kind of clothes that you want to incorporate for yourself, then you can go on to register a logo for yourself. There's places like Canva or Logo Maker that you can play around with in order for you to be able to create a free logo. I do know that there are people that charge you anything from $350 to $1.5 for them to be able to create a logo for you. However, sometimes I just feel like, especially as a startup, there's no need for you to go through all that trouble when we now know that there are free platforms, which I've linked in the description box, that you can actually use for you to be able to create a logo for your business. Once you've considered all the points that I've shared in this video, it then becomes time for you to consider the next part of your business: pricing, marketing strategies, placement. All those things are things that we're actually going to talk about in the second series of the video on how you can actually create your own clothing brand. On top of that, I have an exciting feature that I want to introduce to the channel, as earlier mentioned in the video, and this is for me to create a platform where small businesses can come and showcase their products. We get to know who the business owner is, etc., etc. This is the feature that I've been wanting to do for a while, but because of COVID and the constant lockdowns, I decided let me put it off, and I was actually only able to start it now that life seems like it's going back to normal. And also because it's Women's Month, I thought it only fair for me to start off with businesses that are only run and founded by women. So please stay tuned to the channel. This is something that is going to be so exciting because I get to visit so many different businesses and so many different women who are going to tell us how they started their own business, and also just give us pointers on what it's been like to run a business in the pandemic, and also give us tips on how you can actually start your own kind of company if maybe their industry is something that you're interested in. So please do stay tuned for that, because that's something that's going to be coming onto the channel very soon. I hope you've made it to the end of the video so that you can get all the juicy information that I had to share with you guys today on how you can actually start your clothing brand. Or if you're just still considering it, these are things that you need to consider before you decide to take all your money and put that into your business. Not only that, I do hope that you've decided to join our community by hitting that subscribe button down there. It really costs you nothing, honey, for you to be able to join our community. And also, pretty please keep your notifications on so that you guys don't miss out on any of the content that happens here. And also please do remember to give me a like on the video so that it can help my YouTube algorithm, and so that this video can keep popping up in the faces of other people who could use this kind of information. Other than that, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to see you guys in the next video, and please do look out for the business profiling feature that I have coming up on the channel. Cheers.